Yeah, we can just hop right into this bad boy. So this was episode 9, Tolerance is Extinction Part 2. I feel like I want to say that a lot happened in this episode, but I feel like that's every episode.
Yeah.
Like that's just kind of like par for the course. So we'll get right into it. This opens up, obviously, Xavier is back in the Milky Way ghetto. The sun is rising. He is waking up in bed. The mansion has seen better days. It's a fixer-upper at this point. We see Magneto on the shore, looking out at the water, pondering more genocide, I'm assuming. In Bastion Town, all the primes are frozen, and Bastion is floating along carrying his mother. I was getting some real, like, Bates Motel vibes out of that. We see Jubilee and Roberto being chased into an alley, into a dead end. Storm and Forge are striking a rooftop pose, looking down at them, dispersing the people chasing them. Magneto reaches out and raises Asteroid M from the water before him. We see Bastion laying his mama down. I feel like you could write a whole psychiatry study on that alone. That's what I see in my nightmares, by the way.
That's terrifying. Oh my god.
So, after everything that happened in episode 8, and this is sort of like the opening that we get out of this, I'm kind of interested to see like what kind of vibes everybody got like right off the bat. And Alicia, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely had sort of like the somber but like momentum building kind of energy that I was actually wanting like right after the Genosha episode. So I really loved the way that this opened with like not a lot of dialogue, if any, just a lot of scene setting that I thought was really great. I mean, I that moment of Storm and Forge, like on the top of the building, just like coming in clutch for Jubilee and Roberto was so awesome and just like so perfect. And like when we got the opening, like that just whole opening sequence and we saw like the opening credits and Storm was back in it, I was like, yes, okay. So I thought it was a really nice build to kind of like take on the momentum of the last episode and sort of like give you those places of like where is everybody at and build like the epicness that will be this episode. It was like an additional recap, kind of like where's everybody now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Stefania, how about you?
I love the fact that, like you said, that we're getting into where is everyone now, but also the fact that in the animated series, in the opening credits, we have Jubilee running towards the fence, and then in 97 we have Sunspot running towards the fence, and now in this one we have both of them running, but they end up in a dead end, and that's when Storm and Forge come in and save them. So I thought that was really cool small detail that we got to see. But I love the fact that there's little to no dialogue. We're just getting like the mood of where everyone is at right now. We're getting into that kind of feeling because crazy things are about to happen in like the next 5 to 10 minutes. So it really has to start out a bit quiet before the storm.
Mm-hmm. No pun intended. Dylan.
Yeah, the quiet part. That's awesome. It's like Alicia said, the whole like this was something that I think everyone needed after Gambit, but we didn't get, and we were kind of sad about it, but we didn't complain because X-Men 97 is amazing. So we don't want to complain about anything. Yeah, and Storm, she's amazing. I would like to know how her and Forge knew to find them, because this is 1997 when nobody has cell phones and pagers are not working. So, but whatever.
Maybe he felt it in his leg.
Yes.
Because that's still working.
Yeah. Like an old man who knows when it's going to rain. He's like, mutants nearby.
Trouble happening.
They're this way.
Okay. All right. So we're there then. We kind of like begin like the dialogue of this thing where we have Jean Scott and Xavier kind of like there and the destruction of the house, and Scott's sort of like, what do you think was going to happen? Like you left Magneto in charge. Are you really surprised everything went to shit? Um, Xavier was like, "Hey, I was trying to like free you guys from having to be caught in this forever," and you know, Xavier says that was my fear, and he holds out his hands to Scott, like I'm sorry, and Scott's just like nah, like just cold, just like turns and walks away. Um, Somewhere elsewhere in the mansion, Rogue wakes up, and of course Kurt's there because Kurt's awesome, and Kurt's kind of like, "Yeah, you've been out a minute. There's been a lot going on." He says Trask survived, and so did, and Rogue says Remy, and Kurt's like, "No." We see Stormforge, Roberto, Jubilee show up at the mansion. Jean and Storm have a great embrace, like sisters, like haven't seen each other. They have this fantastic interaction. And obviously now we know Beast and Forge know each other. Like they've got back history. And of course, Forge's leg is like the top shelf leg, because it had like electro shielding. So it's good. Um, and they're sort of like, yeah, hey, what happened here? And Gene sort of says, hey, we're moving temporarily to Mur Island because clearly this place is gonna is not stable. We're not gonna do this. So all that wrapped together, Stefania, we'll start with you.
I I think my favorite part of that scene is probably Storm and Jean reuniting. And, before, I don't know if anyone had told her that, like, yeah, by the way, Jean is actually Madeline before you left. I feel like in between the scenes, they filled in the gaps for her. But I just find it so funny that maybe she thinks that that's actually, like, Madeline, but actually Jean, you know what I mean? But I hope somebody told her. But anyway, I just love their sisterhood. They have such a close bond, and I love how well they portray them, and especially, of course, the voice acting is always fantastic. And I just want to see, like, I would love to see like a solo series of them. Like, that's how much I love their bond together. Um, and what broke my heart a lot was the fact that Rogue woke up and she thought Remy was still alive, but Nightcrawler was gonna say Magneto. Like, she long gone. Magneto, she don't care about him no more. Dust is gone, right? um, and she was really worried about him, but obviously, he gone, R.I.P. But I thought, you know, this was the start of me, even though I always thought this, but like Xavier get him booted out. He shouldn't have come back in the first place. And go back to your bird queen, like Magneto said. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoy Scott in this show. I think he is a favorite that I didn't think would be a favorite of mine. I just love how he has been written and portrayed, and this is the Scott that we really needed for the X-Men. And especially later on when we see what he does, I was like, you were a one.
How about you, Dylan?
I super love the Storm and Jean part because I do love their sisterly love in comics. It's a little weird to see it in the show because they never had that in the animated series. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, I know this because of comics. This was not in the first 5 seasons. So it's nice to see, but also like, wait, that's not cartoon canon. But whatever, sure. Yeah, I'm just gonna assume that Storm got filled in by Jubilee, like on the way from the alley to the mansion. Like, okay, Gambit died, Jean was Maddie, the baby's gone, Bishop's gone. There's a lot of stuff that's happened. But hey, thanks for saving me.
As a side note, I just want to say, it just occurred to me, I would love an X-Men 97 side episode that is literally just Jubilee catching Storm up on everything that happened.
Yeah,
Like, I would
what's his
watch.
name in Ant-Man?
Yes, that would be amazing.
Yes. That seems like exactly what they did.
Yeah.
Like, that's a perfect Jubilee role.
Yeah. Your thoughts, Alicia?
Well, okay. So Xavier is not fooling anybody. Like the way that he comes out and he's like, I did it for you, Scott. And it's like, dude, no, you didn't. And I love that Scott is seeing right through that. Like maybe there was some intention Xavier had, but I just feel like you didn't do it for the team. You didn't know these things were going to happen. Like, did you really think like if you know Scott and you've trained him, did you really think that if you left that would be an easy out for Scott? That's almost like the exact opposite of what you should assume would happen. Like he's of course going to feel responsible for taking care of everything because he was like your right hand essentially. So why would he feel that like you leaving is an opportunity for him to be like, oh, I don't need to be here? So that moment when Xavier is saying that and he puts his hand out and Scott just like is just sees right through him and is just like, no, I'm not here for this, and like walks out the hole in the wall. I just felt for Scott in that moment. And I would totally agree with Stefania that like Scott is really a character that I did not expect to want to connect with in this show at all. I really have never been a Scott Summers fan, and X-Men 97 is really changing that for me. For sure. Actually, Free Comic Book Day, I like picked up Uncanny X-Men Revolution at the comic book shop just because I wanted to read like that version of Scott, and it's like feeling very relevant to where things are going with the show. So that was cool. But wholeheartedly agree with Jean and Storm, and I think that what's really cool about that moment is like it was a glimmer of hope in the situation. You know, like their reuniting kind of gave everybody like this uplifting feeling, like Storm coming through the door with Forge, and that was like a happy moment in all the sadness. And then Rogue, for me, the Rogue waking up and the way that she was processing really made me think about kind of the state of shock that she was in making the choices that she had made in the previous episodes, like how she just went into a blind rage, like the fact that she can't like timeline wise place that couldn't be possible for Remy to still be alive, like how much time had passed, like really made me think about like what kind of mental blackout she must have been in all of that time. And now she's like waking up and kind of coming to terms with everything that has happened up until this point. I think that was a really important character moment for her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I sort of feel like Xavier at this point is sort of like the guy who's been the negligent father who now all of a sudden when the kids are like effed up teenagers is kind of like, well, it was because,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're getting an apology, and I do think that, probably his apology is genuine, but like the toothpaste is out of the tube, man. Like, you're not shoving it back in, or are we? I don't know. We might get some time travel here, I think. So yeah, we get all the X-Men now. They're all finally together discussing Magneto. Storm says she can feel the Earth's magnetic field weakening, and they have until sunset, and they need Magneto to reverse it before it becomes permanent. Logan, being Logan, says this day only ends one way and pops his claws. My God. Xavier says, blame me. Nobody argues. And Scott designates blue and gold teams. One team is going to go after Magneto. One is going to go after Bastion. Beast thinks that him and Forge can undo the Prime Sentinels, which was a question we had after last week's episode, is whether this is something that can be undone or they're just permanently that way. Xavier reveals about going to see Bastion when Bastion was a child and thought he was a mutant, and believes that once Bastion is off the table, Magneto might just be willing to say, okay, I'll play along and undo this thing. That was a fun scene. But yeah, we'll start with you on this one, Dylan.
I liked this scene, but I also I love Scott now because of the show. But then Sunspot yelled at Xavier like Cyclops did 5 minutes earlier, and then Cyclops defended Xavier, and he's like, "No, we're not going to place blame right." What? You just place blame, you jerk!
Exactly.
Don't make me hate you again. I'm starting to like you. I probably the first. I know I've screamed a bunch of other times throughout episodes, but like I probably screamed the most when he mentioned blue and gold teams, because I was like, oh my God, this is the 90s. Super, super loved that. Yeah, that's what I like the most about this section.
All right. How about you, Alicia?
Yeah, I mean, oh God, I agree. First of all, I got mad at Scott in that moment. I was like, bro, what the heck? But I guess he still has to like hold up his position of being on Xavier's side. But I hated it. And I don't know. It's just like I really just I wonder what happens inside Charles Xavier's mind. Like when he's like, "Oh, if we get Bastion off the table, Magneto will change his mind." Like that's not Bastion is not the reason that Magneto is upset. Like yes, Bastion's taking things to the next level. He's like elevating what happened in Genosha, but like Genosha is the reason. And like I feel like Charles left space because of Genosha, but he's not really like taking in its actual effects on the people that are there. And he's like, I'm like, what? Do you know anybody? Are you sure? Like, I disagree strongly, but go for it. I guess go for it. And yeah, I think it was a cool like meeting scene. Good to get the team together. But I'm unsure. Like Charles, you've been away for too long. You're really disconnected. You should take a back seat and let someone else lead for just like ever, forever.
All right, Stefania, you got to follow that.
I mean, I just have to agree with everything that Alicia just said. So I also too did freak out at the blue and gold team part because I was like, yes, we finally got it, we got it. But yeah, in the words of Kitty Pryde, Xavier is a jerk.
Yes. Yes, he
And
is.
I would just leave it at that because Alicia just said everything that I would have said. So.
Can we just like take a minute to mention that Dylan's like basically turning into a Bastion like right here in front of us? Like
Make the light look good. It's not working.
one thing I'm going to say, and I don't know if this is the thinking, but I kind of agree. I agree with Scott in this scene, like of him like basically telling Sunspot to stop. And the reason why, I've been at my job a long time. I will talk to my boss a certain way. The new guy who's been here 5 minutes, you need to shut your mouth. Nobody's listening to it. Maybe that's just my mentality. Yeah, but I think altogether that was a great scene. And yeah, I don't understand the wishful thinking at best that if they take Bastion off the board, Magneto's going to be like, oh, well, in that case. Oh, okay. I feel like if we've learned one thing from Xavier in this, he would be good being a member of the X-Men, but this dude did not need to be in charge. Just let Logan do it. Please, let Logan do it. This crap would have been snuffed in its cradle a long time ago.
Not Logan. But
What?
also, I just want
I'm
to say,
having connectivity issues, Alicia. I can't hear you. Hold on.
I said not Logan. But I want to say one other thing that I forgot to say about the scene. When Roberto is in his new mutants uniform, I was like, give me the rest. Where are the rest of them? Are they coming? Why is he in that uniform? Like that really got me excited just because if we got the new mutants like in the next season or something, and also maybe like a certain phasing mutant who works at a coffee shop, I'd be fine.
Yeah, I'd be fine. Yeah, I kept waiting for like Cannonball to show up, and who's that one mutant on that team?
Danny Moonstar.
Native American. What's his name? I don't know. Anyway, I can never remember. So this, as we move along, I love this. Probably one of the. I know there have been so many fantastic stormlines in this show, but as we go to the next scene, and Beast and Forge are working on something, and Storm, the Queen, just walks up and says, "Impress me." Like just commanding the entire universe right there. Not like, hey guys, what you up to? Hey, you guys up to something fancy to help us out on this adventure? No, just impress me. They say they're calibrating the scrambler to Bastion's frequency to cut his ties to the Prime. Beast gets excited and says, hey, we can even use it to, makes him kind of neutralizer, and there's a bolt of lightning, and that matter's quickly laid to bed very quickly. We see Rogue and Xavier lakeside looking out at the lake. Rogue is wearing Remy's coat. Probably smells like Bayou and Heartbreak. But
And beignets.
yeah, yes, that's what the crop top smells like. But Xavier's sort of like Remy should have been buried here, and Rogue's like, and Magneto shows up just with an asteroid. Just what up? Just shows right up, like a dusty old man in his RV. Magneto asks Charles if he's ready to walk his path. Xavier, well, your path leads to destruction for humans and mutants. You need to undo what you did. And Magneto is like, will humanity undo Genosha? Magneto addresses the X-Men about the Dream being dead and makes the open offer. Rogue removes Gambit's coat and trades it in for a turncoat and goes with. And Umberto's just like, adios. So there's a lot in there. I didn't want to drag it out with the narration because I wanted to get right into people's thoughts. Stefania, what do you think?
I mean, my girl roasted the team as she should have, to be honest, because you gotta put yourself in her shoes, right? What she's gone through, and she was literally just in a coma and doesn't know anything that happened besides Nightcrawler telling her, updating her. But like, she's gone through a lot, and she, of course, she's like probably in shock of what she has done in the past few episodes, and she's like realizing, well, she is realizing that Xavier's dream is not the dream anymore, and that's why she goes to Magneto's side, especially because her and Magneto have this connection. They've always had this connection, and so I feel like that she thinks Magneto understands her more than Xavier ever would. Like, even, I mean, it's not said in the show, but in the comics, Xavier took Rogue in and said, I'll help you control your power as long as you join the team. Like, that was that was kind of the thing that she had to do. But it took how many years for that to happen? She never got it, and she ended up doing it by herself without Xavier. So really, what has Xavier done for her that she could benefit from? Really nothing. So good for her for choosing a side she thinks is right. Now, will I say, are Magneto and Xavier both right? No, they're both wrong in their own ways. But in that moment, Rogue had to choose a side. And I just love the roasting. I just love like what she said about the whole team, and the fact that she called Morph out like that. Like, damn, they really did do that to them in the first episode. But yeah, I feel for her. I feel for Sunspot too, especially because he's so young. So there's a lot of people that when you're young, there's a lot of people, older people that will influence you, right? When you're young, you kind of don't have you're not trained, I guess, to really not think for yourself, but you haven't made your mistakes yet. You haven't made your own mistakes yet, and you have to learn. So you kind of learn from adults, and the adults in this situation aren't, doing a great thing right now. So he's like, okay, let me not do that. Let me do this instead.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes to Magneto's side as well. So, yeah, Magneto was right. I'm just saying Magneto's right. Team Magneto.
Okay, Dylan.
I super love this scene. I love that Magneto showed up and gave his offer to his X-Men. He called them his X-Men. And I always agree with Magneto, but I did not like Rogue saying what she said to Storm, because Storm was gone because she lost her powers. If Rogue had lost her powers, she would have left too. So calm down.
Fair.
So I didn't like that part. But I think it would have almost been fun if Magneto would have, like, one by one, asked each one of them to join him, because I feel like half or more than half would have actually joined him, because so many of them have reasons not to be on Xavier's side. Like, what does Wolverine have to do? Like,
Yeah.
he just agreed with Rogue throwing a dude off a building. Like, not throwing, she dropped him. But, like, he was like, yeah, we all would have done that. So Wolverine should have definitely been Team Magneto. And I mean,
Yeah, I handled
yeah,
that.
the humans just took Storm's powers away. Like, there's a part of her that would have probably been like, well, maybe. So yeah, that would have been fun, and I'm happy that Sunspot joined him. I kind of wish there would have been at least one more to kind of make it be a little bit more even, but it was fun.
Although I will say in that entire exchange, all of the X-Men are standing there on the shore of the lake, kind of like jaws on the floor, sort of like taking in the Kardashian drama that's happening right here. Except for Wolverine, who's got his claws out the entire time. He's literally thinking, Eric, take one step forward. I dare you. So, just going to leave that there. Anyway.
Pretty much foreshadowing.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Alicia.
Okay. So there's one thing that Rogue says to Charles that like is something that I feel like maybe not in the exact words, but something that I've said is that when she says, if you would treat us like people instead of students, and that really hits because it's so difficult for him to understand them as human beings. He just, or like people, I guess, mutants, they're not humans, but like as individuals, I feel as though he's always trying to correct them and like lead them in a certain way, and he doesn't often try to like understand their perspective. And I think that that's where she was sort of like kind of fed up, you know, and that line specifically like really hit me. But I think everything else that Stefani said about Rogue in that situation makes perfect sense. And it was like, even in the scene before, when you see her in Remy's coat and then you see her uniform underneath, like as soon as I saw that particular look, I was like, that's a change. That's a decision. What does that mean? So I think like I kind of expected her for multiple reasons to go with Magneto. But then if you think about Sunspot, like he was so afraid to like come out as a mutant, and the moment he did, all of his fears were proven right. Like his mom talked about hiding it from people. He was handed over like to the other side. So he's basically like it really similar again to what Stefania was saying of like he's a young person and he's in this situation where he feels like trapped, and he everything that he's afraid of is hitting him in the face, and he's witnessing all this destruction. And so he has to make a choice, and I think he's making a choice based on like not having a lot of experience as a mutant and out of fear. And so he chooses Magneto's side that way. I will say it did break my heart when he said like, what is left for me here, and Jubilee is like, me, and he doesn't care about that. But like I do think that he just really made a fear-based decision because of everything that's happened to him up until this point, and also probably angry, right? Like he's angry and he wants Charles to do something about it, and Charles doesn't seem as like motivated to just like take action as Magneto does. And so if you're mad and you want to do something about it, you're going to choose the person who seems like they're actually going to do something about it.
Mm-hmm. And I also think I like that. And I also think there's something significant about her wearing Remy's coat and then taking it off when she goes with Magneto. Like inside, she knows Gambit wouldn't be cool with that
Right.
if he was alive. That he would just flat out give Magneto the middle finger and be like, "No, absolutely not." Because it'd be one thing if she was wearing it like, "I'm wearing this because this was a man that I loved, and I'm going into this villain era to avenge him." Like she knows, like he wouldn't be down with that. Cool, yeah. So we then we get to Mur Island. We have this the exchange between Scott and Cable. Stefani, the line was in this episode.
It was, yeah.
It was
I
in
was like,
this
there
episode.
it is.
And it's been one of those undercurrents, I think, in the show of the like Cable, Gene Scott, Madeline thing. of trying to figure out exactly how. And you have to. I mean, obviously, it's confusing for all of them. Of course, Maddie's gone now, but still confusing for all of them and exactly how this entire relationship is going to work. But Scott says to Cable, like, "Hey, I know she's not your mom, but trust her." And by the way, go give him hell, which I thought was a great, like, go get him, kiddo. You know. We see Xavier and Kelly having this conversation on the astral plane. And I think out of everybody so far, I feel the worst for President Kelly because he's like, what is happening? Like, how do you not expect me to just fire every nuke right now because the world's on the brink and yet I'm just supposed to trust you when you've done a bang-up job so far? When Kelly did mention the Magneto protocols, which I don't recall ever being mentioned in the original series, so I was kind of curious as to what was behind that, if we'll ever find out. Is Xavier kind of say, hey, look, just straight up attacking with aggression is just going to make this work. We need to have time to reason with him. We get to see the X-Men suiting up in their classic uniforms on Mur Island, which was like fanboy freaking out over that. Interesting scene where we see Beast next to Trish Tilby, who's in a hospital bed after the Prime Sentinel thing, and he's kind of holding her hand. So he's like personally, he's got something weighing on this whole mission too. And then we see Scott and Jean hug as the two teams begin to part their ways to accomplish their different missions. Stefania, what'd you think?
So I loved seeing the original costumes, of course, the giant size X-Men era. I was really hoping we'd get that too, because when I saw Storm's new look, I was like, oh, we're so getting giant size X-Men. But no Colossus, unfortunately. But I thought this was the way that Xavier talks to Kelly, and then you have like the overlay of the team just kind of prepping for battle, basically. I also want to point out the card that Jubilee was holding has one Claremont Ave on it. I thought that was a really cool Easter egg. I saw that, I was like, oh, there it is. That's like me with every Easter egg, though. So, but I can see where you're coming with Kelly being like so confused because like he's the president, right? So he should know what's going on. He has a say in what can be done, right? But he doesn't know what's going on. Everything, it's really all Bastion's mind, put this all together, and he has no clue who Bastion is and how he did what he did and how he became who he was. So it's crazy because I mean, yes, there are humans that hate mutants, but in the end, Bastion was the one that kind of pushed the humans to hate the mutants even more, to make them fear them and hate them more. He was kind of that like little spark that lit the fire, the flame. So, I mean, it's complicated, especially with like, how are like politics and government going to mix in with like mutant and war. It's like it's two opposites. I don't know how they're going to try and figure that out and try and like find a meeting ground, but I also really did like the little like the sequence of them getting on their planes and going their respective ways. So it was another kind of like somber moment, like the beginning, but not like as somber. There's a lot of like pressure, and you can feel the tension when they're all prepping for battle because they don't know what to expect. They don't know what they're flying into. So it's kind of like you're on the edge of your seat, like what's going to happen when they get to their destinations? Who are they going to face? What are they going to find?
All right. How about you, Alicia?
Yeah, I mean, well, I want to talk about the Cable Scott moment in like the locker room situation because I thought it was really interesting the way that they're talking about like I know that Jean is not your mom, but that doesn't mean that she can't be trusted and she's not a good person or like a on your side essentially. And I just think that's interesting as a person who has a step parent who struggled with like the accepting of this other person that's not your, like, you're not my dad. Like, I probably said that to my stepdad more times than I'd like to admit. And it's like, it's difficult when you're in that situation because that person is not necessarily trying to, like, they're not trying to replace your parent, but that doesn't mean that they don't care about you and that they're not still there for you. And so I thought that was a really important thing for Scott to say. Like, I know she's not your mom. She knows she's not your mom, but she still cares about you. And then, like, Jean has a whole other layer of also, like, having Maddie's memories and, like, having that connection. So she does understand a little bit more, I think. And also, like, holds a place for Maddie within her. So she, like, feels a responsibility to help Cable and to be there for him. So I thought that was like a really important moment for the two of them to have because previously they sort of had the conversation, but it wasn't really a conversation. It was more like a moving on into the middle of battle. So that was a great moment. And then, yeah, everybody gearing up. I have my feelings about the Marvel Girl costume. Um, I don't like it, but I understand what all of the costumes represent in that moment. So I will move on. Um, and yeah, I thought it's also just nice to see sort of like the progression and the like ebbing and flowing of Scott and Jean's relationship and like where they are with each other and that like they still had that moment together before they left of just like acknowledging that no matter what sort of is happening or where they stand at that moment, they do still care for each other. So they want to make sure that they have that moment because, like Stefania said, we don't know what's going to happen when they part ways. So having that moment, I thought was nice for the two of them.
Dylan?
All the things I liked Stefania and Alicia said. So I'm gonna mention other things. It was really cool when they showed Muir Island that we got to see that motorcycle. It's a Wolverine action figure motorcycle. It's called the Mutant Cycle, I think. That was neat. I like that little Easter egg. I freak out over Easter eggs too, like Stefania. I don't like Trish, so I wish she was gone. I I hated that part. So I thought when Wolverine stabbed her like 18 times and she probably fell out of the sky that she died and we would never have to see her again. So that was a little disappointing. Uh, the the animation of Cable, I love that they make him so much bigger than everyone else because in the animated series he was not bigger. So I love that. Um, I say this a lot. I really love the voice actors of Cable and President Kelly because it is bringing back legacy actors of Chris Potter being Cable and Ron Rubin being Senator Kelly, the original Gambit and Morph. Love that we didn't get rid of. And since everyone here is a cosplayer, I have a question. What were your thoughts on looking at the mannequins, specifically Storm, Jean, and Rogue? Why did they have wigs?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That was Logan's doing.
Hair.
That was Logan's doing.
But it's at Moira's house.
Yeah. I don't know.
He's good at sneaking into places.
Maybe they wear wigs. Maybe
It's
maybe
like,
they wanted to like just to replicate their hair on the mannequins so they don't look bald. I don't know.
maybe they were intending for that room at one point to be like a museum. Like
Maybe.
they were actually gonna wear those costumes again. That wasn't the intent. So like they needed to put wigs on them so that if people came in and through, they're like representing the characters.
Shut your mouth, Brittany. Shut your mouth. I see you in the comments.
These Dragon Tag bars.
Whoever did put the mannequins together, I love that, whatever warehouse or Amazon that they bought mannequins from, that they bought a brown one for Storm. Like, there's so much detail in these
Yeah.
mannequins. It doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense.
They actually only did that so they could match with the Airbnb, I
Yeah.
think, right?
Yeah. Or maybe Moira would get lonely and she needed people to talk to and she didn't have anyone, so she'd talk to the
Yeah.
mannequin.
Yeah.
And
Friend.
Storm's not.
Banshee's outside screaming again. I need somebody to talk to. I think in a way it makes sense because I feel like if you're a superhero and anytime you could get called to action at any time, and anytime you get called to action, there could be cameras there, right? If it's 3 in the morning and your hair rollers are in and the alarm goes off, it's so much easier to just throw a wig on and go do that thing. I sort of feel like maybe it's just me. I don't know. I've never worn a wig in my life, so I can't
I
say.
mean, it takes some
Like, what?
time to really glue down the lace front and
Yeah.
pin the wig, so
I wouldn't
I don't
say
know.
it's easier.
Yeah.
I just
Well, these ones
don't
are
know.
made by mutants. They're mutant wigs. They do special things. Anyway, I'm just going to go off on a tangent, so I'm just going to stop. Yeah, we get now we get the we're like get. Oh, I do want to say though, I do feel like there was a missed opportunity when because they had established like okay, we're going to have these two teams, one going after Bastion, one going to Magneto. You have Xavier meeting with President Kelly, and I feel like there's a missed opportunity there where Xavier could have thought about it and like, you know what? Maybe we can help each other. My whole team is going to go to Asteroid M. I just need one nuke into the Galapagos. Could you do that for me? We save mutants and we miss some turtles. It's fine. Like that's a fair trade. I feel like that could have taken care of the Bastion situation better than any necklace or I don't know. Maybe that's just me. So anyway, we see the jet approaching Bastion's island. Bastion is all wired up like a sex dungeon in his basement. He awakes to the approach. He wakes up all the Sentinels. The jet gets attacked. Storm and Forge are like, "Hey, we'll stay in the air and we'll draw them away. The rest of you go to ground." Cable, Morph, Jean, and Beast head through the jungle, tracing the source of Bastion to inside the volcano. They find the ruins of a town where Sentinels attack. Morph goes into Hulk mode, which was amazing. Beast, we get the line of "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" as he whacks a Sentinel with its own arm. And yeah, and then Cable gets launched into the jungle as Sinister appears, and then we get this Jean versus Sinister fight, which had a lot of underlayers to it. It was a ton of fun. They end up in a bowling alley. I can't. I'm 12 years old, so I can't help but say the line that Sinister just had a lot of balls coming at his face. There's a lot that happens after that, so I'm just going to stop at that one and say, Dylan, what do you got?
Oh my god. This was like one of the best parts. This is also where Storm and Jean have their touching continuation of sisterly love. And again, I loved it, but it was only in comics, not the show. Where is this coming from? Hulk, Morph, and Jean, like if you're reading comics, and I think Alicia has mentioned this on a previous episode, the mutant synergy. I love that they're putting so much, like in the first episode with Gambit and Wolverine, so Jean and Morph. Something I never thought that I would see Jean using her telekinesis to make Morph bash a bunch of Sentinels. Yeah, that's I just love it. I love all the fighting. I love that Beast gets to actually have a moment. I feel like he hasn't really done anything since the first episode when he jumped inside a Sentinel. So, yeah.
I just want to point out the wordplay because you mentioned Jean and Storm's touching moment. The wordplay with what they say to each other make them weather your mind and them mind your weather. Or no, make them mind your weather and then weather your mind. Yeah, that's it. Just the wordplay on that was so clever. The wordplay throughout this whole show has been like top tier because there's so many different meanings between almost everything they say, and you kind of have to you either know instantly what like the different meanings are or like you need a bit to like figure that out. And just that was the writing in this show is just so fantastic. I say that every week, but it gets better and better, and I'm just so happy about that. But I also love the fact that Morph said Morph Smash. I thought that was very, very fitting. And Beast's little like lines that he says in battle, they're the most like theatrical, cheesiest things, and it's so Beast, you know? I love it. It again, the writing is just perfect for each character. Um, but also, I think what really stood out to me the most was Jean and Sinister's battle, and the fact that Sinister traveled through the shadows, and then at one point ended up behind her after she like threw something at him, and he like dipped into the shadows, and it went back to her, and he came up behind her, and it was like just really really cool how that sequence was, and the whole time, Sinister's like, I can tell you where you end and Madeline begins if you just ask. And Jean really, at this point, doesn't care because now their memories are just jumbled together. They've kind of became one. So to her, that really doesn't matter anymore. There's so many more important things, especially like that moment that she's worried about and thinking about. She doesn't really care about, you know, where that all happens. And I just love the fact that if you hear when Jean throws Sinister into the bowling pins, it makes the bowling pin strike sound. I thought that was very clever. So it's just the little things like that that make this show work so much.
Yeah, totally. There's like something so beautiful endlessly about the sound score of this show.
Yeah.
And that moment when we go in and we're seeing all the wires and like Bastion like hooked up and this like there's just like this epic ethereal but creepy like singing music that is happening that is just so like it fills you with the like the feelings you need, like the anxiety and the epicness of that moment. Like I love the sound score. I will always say like the fight sequences, the animation is just so beautiful. It's probably like the thing I've said 7,000 times about the show is like every time there's a fight sequence, I'm just like, ugh, it's so beautiful to watch. Also, I really, really love the subtlety of the relationship between Storm and Forge. Like, just even like she comes up and like sort of like stands by him while he's flying the jet with Jean, and like they're like, you know, there's another moment where they're like flying together and like she's in the sky and like there's just like this energy between them which is so interesting that they can capture that in animation and they don't have to say anything. It's just like there and I love seeing it. Yeah, I think and then everything else too, like the fight sequence, the Jean and Morph smashing, so good. And Sinister, like the voice actor, like I feel vibrations in my like chest when I hear Sinister's voice. Like I can feel it vibrating, and it's just like when he comes out of the shadows. That is something that I didn't like. I said to Justin, we were just rewatching the episode earlier today, and I was like, "What is that? Like, what part of his power is that?" Because I do think it's cool, but I'm just not sure. Like, I really fully understand what it is that he's doing in that moment, or that I've ever seen him have that capability before. So but I do think that like it's awesome and I kind of don't care because it adds to like the creepiness of the character that he can just like slither in the shadows. But does anybody know like what that is referencing as far as like his comic power set?
I saw somebody online say that he did that like twice in comics, and he's like been in comics for like 40 years. So, like, oh, twice in 40 years. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, well, it's in there, so okay. But like, I just was like, oh, I've never seen him. I don't think outside of the show I've ever seen him do that. But it does add like the creep factor for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely I thought it was interesting in there where he's sort of like taunting Jean and saying, "I can tell you, I know what you're after," and Jean's kind of like, "No, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like I've moved past that at this point in time.
Yeah.
That's not something you can like dangle over me as a carrot at this point because emotionally we've moved on."
We're all
Because, like, that is
happy.
with me.
Yeah.
we're all happy for Jean when she says that, but we're all secretly like, tell us
Yeah.
Yeah,
who's
Yeah.
yes, Jean, have your
literally.
I am woman, hear me roar moment, but also let the man speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely like a tease. Like you were like, ooh, we're gonna get that information. And Jean was like, no, Madeline and I are one now. She is with me. I don't need it. And everyone's mad.
Good for you.
Chat rooms and forums have been on fire with debate this entire season as millions of nerds have scoured through episode after episode of the original animated series trying to find out where. And Gene's like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Thanks, Jean.
Right,
Thank you.
yeah. Um, okay, so we get to now that we've seen that side, we get to the Asteroid M side of things, where we see the X Jet kind of like coming and landing in the hangar. Roberto and Rogue come in, all ready to fight for their new man, and they rip it open and find it empty. Like Rogue has to tear it open. Like just walk. Well, anyway. So yeah, the rest of the team, they're in there. Of course, Magneto has a throne made of dead Sentinels, like any narcissist would. Of course, a fight ensues. Xavier, of course, tries to reason with him, and Roberto and Jubes get into their engagement, which I've seen so many people compare it to the like Hawkeye and Black Widow from Civil War kind of fight. Xavier still continues to try and reason. Magneto gives us the shut up line that has been famous. Telepathic Xavier tells Scott that he's going to need to hijack Magneto's powers in order to restore the magnetic field. Yeah, that little tidbit we'll do that because then the end is like the end. So I don't know who wants to go first. Stefania, what do you got?
Okay. Sorry, I had to crack my back and my fingers real quick. Um, so when I to prep to for this episode, I decided to go back and read Fatal Attractions again. And then when I watched the show, I was like, okay, so I'm thinking they're gonna make Rogue and Sunspot the Colossus equivalent. So, they're like on Magneto's side, but they let the team in, without anyone knowing. But no, they're completely not on. They're not helping them out. They're on Magneto's side fully. So that's the one thing they changed from that. But the rest is pretty much the same, especially the ending. But I I I didn't think about Sunspot and Jubilee's fight being like the Hawkeye and Black Widow equivalent from Civil War. I actually found that really funny. But what I think is really clever is that Nightcrawler obviously bamfed himself into where Magneto was. But for him to do that, he would have had to see through the window that's in that room, if you see it in that scene. So he, like, on the ship, looked in that window, was like, okay, that's where you have to go. And then as soon as they landed, he bamfed over there, which I think is, like, a really cool detail. And the fact that Magneto is sitting on the throne of Sentinels says so much about his character and so much of what he's fighting for. So that makes a whole bunch of sense. And at this point, I'm thinking, okay, so I know who, like, so we have Xavier and we have Cyclops. Cyclops is supposed to be the Jean equivalent from the comics. And so I know what's going to happen. I know what's going on. And like I said earlier, this just made me be like, I mean, we'll get to that, but like at this point, I was like, yeah, you go Cyclops, like right on. But I I find it kind of like I'm like, you know, I don't like Xavier, right? I'm on Team Magneto, and while both sides are wrong, I'm still rooting for Magneto here, and I'm still rooting for Rogue throwing Wolverine down like that, and I'm just all for it. I'm like, give me the brawl, give me the blood, give me the fight. I want to see it all. I want to see all the action. In this little like soap opera drama. So I thought it was I thought this was a really I think I enjoyed this scene a bit more than um, the other scene, the other team's scene, just a little bit, just because of the action.
Alicia, what do you think?
Oh, I've never been happier in my life than to hear Magneto tell Charles to shut up. No, I loved that moment so much because you know how I feel about Charles Xavier. But I also think that like what's interesting is seeing like the tension between them and the conversation of like Magneto doesn't want any other mutants to die, right? He's that's his whole thing. It's like the humans are who we're against, not each other. And so the moment that like Rogue takes Wolverine down and she says like you're shooting to kill, like that's not what we are doing here. Like, we are not trying to kill you. We don't want you to kill us. We are going after the humans. So, like, even if you're going to try to stop us, like, don't kill us to do it. So, I thought that was interesting. And I just like seeing how all of this is affecting all of them and like giving them that real moment of the tension that's building between like all of the characters because of the stakes and the fatigue of what's going on. Um, and yeah, it's just so epic. Like all of it is just so epic. And even the like when Charles says to Cyclops like in his mind like we need to get his helmet off because we need to like move forward, like Cyclops is concerned and saying what about like the other team, like what if they haven't done what they need to do yet, like that's going to be disaster. And those are like the moments, those are the reasons that I get frustrated with Charles, is because he gets like tunnel vision sometimes and he sees that like having, yes, I know they have to reverse the magnetic thing that Magneto did to the world, to the earth, but we're doing that to also like there's a larger consequence here of like all the other sentinels coming back online. And Charles just has tunnel vision, and that's, I feel like, potentially going to lead to disaster. And those are the reasons that like I get frustrated with him as a character, because he has like his mindset and he can't like get out of that in any way. He just stays in it.
Yeah, but he gets mad at Magneto when Magneto has just his.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's hypocrite. He's
that,
hypocrite.
that's annoying. I super love that like they were only in that room with Magneto for like 5 seconds, and then they're all like, "Okay, we have to attack him." And then like little Jubilee is like, "Yeah, I'm gonna blast at Magneto because I'm skilled." Like, I mean, we kind of know that she is from Motendo, but like, good for you, Jubilee, for thinking that you have a chance in hell.
Confidence key.
I love it. Yeah, Xavier's a jerk, and Magneto's right, and yeah, that's all I have to say. Because
I feel
everybody,
like I have to get a Magneto is right shirt now.
Yeah.
You know, I don't own one, but I need to get one now.
agreed.
I'm going to address that whole Magneto is right thing at the end. But we'll get class in session after the end here. So yeah, we get like the end cap of this is we have like all this action going on back on Bastion's islands. Morph as Sinister tries to trick Bastion. It was worth a shot, didn't work. Beast gets ensnared and drops the scrambler into Bastion hands. Forge and Storm, this is where we get the cool thing where they're like flying along, and then boom, boom, then now they're crashing. Um, uh, we see Jean in the jungle, and we can't see Sinister, but he's kind of like voice wise taunting her. And then Cable attacks Jean. It's clear that he's being controlled by Sinister. And Cable unleashes like a full like telekinetic attack on her. She's doing everything she can to hold it back. She reaches out to Scott and says, "I love you," as she appears to be overtaken by Cable's attack. Scott snaps back to Asteroid M. This is where we see Wolverine come down on Magneto. Magneto throws him off, but Wolverine gets his helmet off with him in the process. Xavier telepathically attacks Magneto, like he's got this thing in the bag. Like, here we go. Like, the mission's about to be accomplished. And Scott's like, no. shoots Xavier to stop him because he says, hey, Gold Team needs more time. Magneto seizes this opportunity and goes into full power mode, snares everyone mostly against the wall, puts his own helmet on Xavier and begins to squeeze it like a pop can. That's where Wolverine gets him from behind. We can all quote Endgame here, and Thanos should have gone for the head. It's like the biggest mistake of Wolverine's life. But I think I'm not going to get into it yet. And then obviously the whole, we see it. The famous panel from X-Men Volume 2, number 25, where his adamantium skeleton is being removed from his body by Magneto's powers. So, wow. Alicia,
Okay.
what do you got?
Okay. Oh gosh. All right. So Jean Cable situation. I love the strength that they're giving Jean this time around and how like epic her powers are and like the way that she just crushes his gun. Like she's trying to get through to him, like you overpower Sinister, and I think that it's great that she like tries to tug on his heartstrings of like, you're going through what your mother went through. Like she was powerful, she broke through it, you break through it too. But like, I don't know, like what the end result is for Jean there, or even like when Storm falls into the water and Forge crashes, like all of that leaves like a lot of unanswered questions. And in my personal opinion, whenever there's like no body, like if I don't see the dead body, like I'm not going to believe that they're dead until I see a body. So, there's that, but it definitely leaves you with a lot of unanswered questions. Isn't the head crushing from one of the X-Men movies? Don't they do that? Not to Xavier, but like, who does Kevin Bacon play?
They do it to Sebastian Shaw.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
in First Class, right?
yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, well, I know this is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting, and good job, Cyclops. Claps all. But I don't know why I thought this, like, or why I was like almost shocked, because I remember like leaning up to it and I was like, are they really gonna do it? They're gonna do it. It's gonna happen. And then they did it. And I was like, oh, yep, okay. I mean, they did Genosha, so they're gonna do it. And it's so epic. I'm sorry, I know it probably really does not feel great for Wolverine, but it was really epic to watch.
Can you unfriend and block someone in this? I lost track of who went on that one because I'm so distraught right now.
I'm the only one who talked.
All right, Dylan, get it out. Whatever. Like,
Wolverine deserved it. That's what I was saying in the chat. Apparently, I might be having a battle with someone named Heat Industries. But anyway, I want to talk about Storm again. So I hope Storm is okay. And this is why she should have just stayed gone. These people don't tell her when dramatic things happen to her family, like someone dying. And yeah, she helps them and she gets shot and then falls into the ocean. I do want to point out, and I think it was probably in the last scene, but like when Jean and the team left the Blackbird and Storm then went out to start to do her thing, I love that they played her theme music.
Yeah.
And, I can't wait for that to be on Spotify. It's not out yet. It'll be out soon. I thought it was really funny that the two people that thought that they could take down Bastion was Morph and Beast, of all people. Like, I'm sorry, no, go find Jean. Go help Jean defeat Sinister and then go after Bastion. You are Morph and Beast. What are you going to accomplish? So that was funny.
One thing about Beast. Sorry, Dylan.
You're fine.
But I pick up on weird things and make something out of nothing often. But did anyone else notice that like throughout the episode, Beast's coloration was getting darker and darker. Like he was less blue and more gray as the episode went on.
I have to go back
I don't know what
now.
that means.
Oh, I have to
Like, go rewatch it. Let me know if I'm crazy and I'm making something out of nothing, because I've been known to do that. But
I do want to say, I do want to say to that point, you might possibly be onto something, because when they were walking through the jungle when they first got to the island, I noticed his hair was a little bit spikier than normal, and I wondered if they were just doing something different for, he wasn't wearing a lab coat. I thought maybe that was it, but now that you mentioned that, yeah, that could be something.
and then when he is like swinging through in that moment with Morph in to go to bring the collar to Bastion, he like he's gray. He's dark gray. I
mean, they were in a dark room.
I know, but like that's why I said it could be nothing, but I'm just saying it. I had to say it. Okay, carry on, Dylan. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. I don't know what to say about the Magneto Wolverine part, because like Xavier tried and he got stopped by Cyclops, and like I don't know, I would be so mad at humanity inside with Magneto that I'm mad that the X-Men are there trying to stop him. So I don't have anything else to say about that. Jean died, and Jean is not a favorite character of mine, so that was fun, right? Like she died, right? Because I was very happy. If she's alive next week, I will be very mad.
I mean, we haven't seen a body, so I don't know. We didn't see a body. Can't say.
Sure.
I've completely and utterly lost track. Has everybody got Stefania? You haven't gone yet, right?
I haven't gone yet, no.
Okay, cool.
I mean, there are theories going around that Phoenix may be coming back, because if you see when she was being mind blasted, telekinetically, you could see like these kind of orange flames kind of fly by her, and so people were like, oh, maybe that's like a nod to like Phoenix coming back or something. And it could be a possibility, because Phoenix like always lives inside Jean, and that girl Phoenix just loves Jean. And I literally lost what I was gonna say.
That's my job.
Yeah.
Take my job.
Okay, so yeah, Phoenix coming back. That's a theory that I kind of believe is true. The whole thing about Beast turning a bit more grayer, I kind of have to look back at that now, because I have to rewatch and look frame by frame and see what's going on. But I mean, that's I wouldn't really know, because that would be a nod to like Dark Beast, right? I wouldn't really know how he would show up.
Right.
But
yeah.
It's like maybe it's a little hint at like the future and next season or whatever.
Maybe it's
But back, or maybe you're just overthinking it. But back on Asteroid M, I loved that whole ending sequence. Again, I was one of those that was like, they're not going to do it. They wouldn't do it, and they did it, and my mind was blown. But I love that Magneto is just like, enough. Enough is enough, and he just brings out this full rage and nearly crushes Xavier's skull with his helmet, and just crushes him with all the metal around him. And then Wolverine comes up and he just stabs him. And I feel like, like you said before, why didn't he go for the head? I feel like Wolverine, he stabs him, but he maybe just to stop him. I don't think he really wanted to kill him. Even though people may think that's what he wanted to do, but you don't want to kill other mutants, right? They're the same species. They're like the same family, But then Magneto's like, F that, and just ripped the adamantium out of his body. And it was literally from page to screen, it looked exactly the same. Even with Magneto in the background, you see, like it was perfectly animated. Now, the adamantium out of his body, he has, just he also has the bone claws, but like if he has the adamantium out of his body, he becomes more rageful and he's like more aggressive and stuff. So I don't know what's gonna happen in the last episode, but I feel like I say this all the time, but like we're gonna expect some crazy things happening. No, like last episode, I think we're actually gonna get like some crazy things happening because between the first part of the finale and now, or even like between episode 5 and now, like things have just gotten crazier and crazier, and the stakes were higher and higher. And I just the last episode is gonna be like, I can't believe what's going on right now in front of me. I can't believe what I'm seeing, and it's gonna make a big impact. I think.
Yeah.
If we know comics and where the story's going, it's gonna be like people are gonna flip out.
Yeah.
People are gonna freak out.
I just feel like we've been freaking out the whole time.
I know.
How do you freak out here?
I know.
You like
I
you know
know.
it's gonna happen, so you're just like, okay, just prepare yourselves.
Yeah. Like, what am I gonna do when the show's over? What am I gonna freak out about now? Like, I mean, I know season 2 is done. We're gonna have to wait a while for that, but like, give me more.
Yeah.
I want more.
It's not enough.
No.
The interesting thing is, I cannot say 100% this is true, but I've seen this in a couple places on social media today, where before last week's episode, Bo DeMeo had said that Fatal Attractions was the homework.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, supposedly he has said the homework before the final episode is an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, which deals with time travel and a Groundhog Day type situation that keeps happening over and over and over, and eventually something had to happen in order to change that cycle to break out of it. So, will we see Gambit back? Will we see Wolverine back with Bones? Will, I don't know, be Magneto less douchey? I don't know. We'll find out.
Ever.
Yeah.
So,
but also, I want to throw in if they do that time travel thing before he even tweeted that, and I saw it, I was like, oh, okay. So with Xavier and Magneto having this like mind battle going on, we're gonna get Onslaught, right? But now Bo said to watch this episode of Star Trek and deals with time travel and a Groundhog Day concept. And I'm like, okay, so are we still getting Onslaught? Because like maybe it's one of those where it's like a different branch. If we're thinking like MCU wise, we have branches on the timeline, right? So maybe in another universe, in a different branch, we'll get Onslaught, and maybe this branch we're getting Age of Apocalypse next season.
Maybe that's why Beast is gray.
Maybe that's why. I literally just thought of that right now, actually. I'm like mind blown because we're probably going to get Age of Apocalypse next season.
mm-hmm.
Would make sense, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So here's what I want to do. I want to put forth a thought, a notion, a theory, if you will, and then I want to get everybody's thoughts on it. Because I told everybody we were going to address this, so we're going to address this. In my opinion, make no mistake about it, Magneto is 100% the villain. He is absolutely, unequivocally a villain, and I'm going to tell you why. Now, his notion, what his beliefs and what it is that he's after, results in either the destruction of the human race or the subjugation of the human race. Now, keep in mind, this show is written in such a great way that you are very sympathetic with his anger. You are very sympathetic with his heartache. Absolutely, 100%. I feel it too, right? But in his actions and his actions of creating the EMP, he killed a lot of people. A lot of people. A lot of airplanes fell from the sky. A lot of people were on life support in hospitals. Mathematically speaking, there was a considerable percentage of mutants within that group as well. And he clearly did not care. He did not care whether he killed humans. He didn't care if mutants got caught in the crossfire. He's acting out of anger. It's a knee-jerk reaction. And he's playing right into Bastion's hand. That's exactly what he wants, is for a powerful mutant to look so psychotic and cause so much damage that he gets all the justification in the world to do what he wants to do. Now, the most important thing, Charles Xavier. Like, we need to take Charles Xavier and put him over here. Like, we need to divorce him from his idea of what he wants to do. Like, his ideal, I believe, is great. Him as a person, not so much, right? So we can say Xavier screwed this up, screwed this up, screwed this up. We're not going to follow you. And we're like, okay, fine. Like, kick him to the curb. I don't care. Like, leave him at a Denny's for all I care. But when you talk about what it is that he wants and what his dream is, that makes total sense, because basically you have Bastion and you have Magneto, who are two absolute extremes. And it's going to end up either the annihilation of each other at the same time, or wiping out all of mutants, or wiping out all of humans. Xavier's idea, like the dream, the ideal in the middle, is that it's not going to happen overnight, but we need to find a way to get along. We need to find a way to do this, because if we don't, basically everybody's going to lose. So that's my Magneto rant. I'm just going to leave it at that, but I do want to hear what people has to say. I really feel like I want to hit Dylan first on this one, because I couldn't tell if you were seething there or just like, oh motherfucker, oh motherfucker.
It was a little bit of both. Uh, I feel like maybe Magneto should have had a few more people up on Asteroid M, because his conversation at the dock at the lake or whatever, it made it seem like he and Rogue and Sunspot were just gonna, chill on Asteroid M while the Earth died, and then Magneto can fix everything with his powers again, and then they'd go back down. That you've got 3 people. You to have more mutants up there. And then I would completely agree with everything he did. But yes, it's a horrible. Magneto killed a lot of people, and a lot of mutants could have died too. A lot of future mutants could have died, because humans have mutant babies all the time. So you're getting rid of the creators in a sense. So yes, that's horrible, and yeah. I'm on the fence, and I'll just say you made some very good points.
I know, I literally felt like I just got told by a parent that what I did was wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
And your class is
great.
now in session.
But I mean, I said in the beginning, like, are they both right? No, they're both wrong in their own ways. And they're both treating it how they believe they should treat it. And it's not working, But with all the deaths of humans and especially mutants that he caused, it's rage filled. And I feel like this could lead into a possible Avengers versus X-Men storyline, because I don't know. I mean, I would assume like the Avengers are okay, unless they were in the sky and flying a plane and plane crash and they died. But for the most part, they're probably okay. So I believe we're probably going to get like a thing, like, because of course Avengers are all for humans, saving humans and all. And especially with Rogue and Captain America in the last few episodes that we got, that was like the start of the feud, start of the tension, really, where it's like, okay, this is like a hint at X-Men versus Avengers that we might get. And this, what Magneto did, is kind of like solidifying that. Like, we probably are going to get that in the future.
I will say this. I understand your perspective, but I don't think that I am comfortable saying that Magneto is 100% like a villain in this situation, because I agree. He definitely made a choice that caused a lot of harm to humans and mutants alike. But I do not think it was I mean, I guess they kind of make it look like a thought out choice, right? Like, he puts on his evil, like, Magneto costume and like looks at his helmet and all of these things. But I think it comes from like a PTSD trigger point. Like, he they make a point to show you like the numbers on his arms. He has lived through this kind of thing before. He was at Genosha. He then was captured and like being tortured and was set free. So I do think it was a little bit of like a reactionary like decision that wasn't thought out. Like it wasn't a decision made in like plotting to destroy. Well, yes, it was. But I like understand you, but I don't want to agree with you. Is I think where I'm at right now, because I think that there's just a lot more at stake for him than um just simply like being a villain. And I also agree like with what Dylan's saying is that when he came there, he said, "I want to create like our own Genosha, another Genosha." So like he was saying, we're gonna like get off world and go live somewhere else and not be here with the humans. So like Charles, you want mutant human harmony. I want mutants to just live on their own. But like poor planning, like you definitely need more people than that. And like I don't know, I think too like the shockwave that was sent out was like a way to stop the sentinels. So in that, like I feel like it was similar to what I was talking about with Charles earlier, where he's making like a tunnel vision decision to like not do. All he sees is like, this is how we stop this. I don't see the additional consequences to that thing. So it's like really just amplifying the point that Stefania made, that like neither of them are right. Neither of them are making the right choice. Like nobody's making the right choice. But I also don't think it's fair to say like Magneto is the villain when Bastion is there.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
I see where you're coming from. Let's also realize like Cooper let him free.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, he could have gone ballistic on Bastion's facility. He could have started just laying waste to all of that. Instead, he flew away in his undies and declared war on the planet. You know,
Well, I don't know.
Magneto and the Speedo.
yeah, Magneto. That still needs to be assured. Arta Lucas, what's up? Let's. I'll throw this one last tidbit at you. Okay. Think about it this way. Let's say I am a mutant, and I'm a very, very powerful mutant. I'm also an American, and I happen to be in the World Trade Center when the 9/11 attack happens, and I survive. And my first reaction is to fly over to the Middle East and begin indiscriminately destroying and killing, and then decide to float in the sky and watch as it burns and attack anybody fatally if they come and try and stop me. What do you say about that person? And what do you say about the people rooting him on? Saying, yeah, that's our guy. Go get him.
Okay, first of all, put the brakes. Okay, it's one thing to say, what do you say about that person? But it's another thing to say, what do you say about the people supporting him? But no, I agree. I agree that it was like not a great decision, but I feel like that's a difficult comparison because I don't think it was just one act that he was responding to.
Right.
It was like years of humans like continuously saying they were going to like give mutants a chance and then not. And he also like really tried. Like if you think about this season as a whole, he came into the mansion and he said, okay, I'm going to do what Charles asked me to do. I'm going to do this. I'm going to take on the X-Men. I'm going to preach this united front. I'm going to go to Genosha when they ask me to come. I'm going to agree to their terms to be the face of this nation. I'm going to take these steps forward. I'm going to try to trust the humans. And then they completely shattered his trust. So I hear you. I totally hear you. Like wiping out the planet like that is just not, it's not the move, it's not the vibe, but I just think that it's very complicated, not a black and white answer.
One of the things I will say to that, though, and I agree with you, this is the great thing. The brilliance behind this show is that it forces us to have these debates.
Right, of course.
That it does such a good job. Like if we had gotten no character development from Magneto along the way, and then he just did that, we would all feel very, very differently about it. But we see his pain. I mean, the scene there with Leech was very, very intentional. Like, you know very well where he's coming from. Like, there's no doubt about that. And there's no doubt that he's not just like a person who's just like black and white, evil, bad, I destroy X-Men, must stop. That's always been the great thing about X-Men. I think the writing of the show is so fantastic that for I think the best villains, I'm sorry to put it that way, but the best villains are the villains where you at least understand where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Like, those are the best written villains in any form of media. Who else wants to take a shot at me? Let's go.
I mean, Alicia kind of like said everything that I would have said.
This question and the previous thing that you said has me thinking about the show in kind of like a super more deep way. But if you think about when Magneto was captured by Bastion, I mean, Bastion is just like every other villain. He may have said his whole plot out loud, but I can't remember if he did. And does Bastion at all seem like he's a sentinel in front of Magneto? Like, does Magneto even know that Bastion is like this big bad? So by the time Bastion escapes, or sorry, Magneto escapes, like in his head, this might just be humans and
That's true.
some person. So of course he's going to do what he did.
Right.
But also, if you were to like put this in like the real world, let's just say that Finch, you, and Stefania are humans, and you don't know that there's a super evil villain out there, and you just saw humans kill 16,000 mutants on an island. Let's pretend that you guys love me and Alicia, and we're mutants. Wouldn't you hate your own kind for doing what they did? So, I don't know. I would think in the real world, in the show, some humans might agree with what Magneto did.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna say I'm a human and I hate my own kind every day. Like, I will jump that ship happily.
anyway,
Yeah.
that was my deep thought when you said the second thing. I was like, wait, I can inception this. So
We broke down a lot of walls today, folks. Yeah, so I guess in a way that kind of brings us to a close, unless anybody's got any additional thoughts or anything that they want to, add on top of it before we bounce out of here.
I just think it's cool the way the show like makes us have these kinds of conversations and think about the worlds that we live in, right? Like the thing that you just said about how like you would just like peace out from being a human most days or like just disagree with humanity. Like I think that's the point of the X-Men, right? For us to look at the worlds through these lenses and really have these conversations and understand like what everybody else is going through in their own life and like their own struggles, and that's why it's important, and that's why we have to talk about those things that are uncomfortable. Like that question, like the 9/11 question that you just posed was like that was uncomfortable, but like we have to have uncomfortable conversations like as human beings, and we need sometimes like other lenses to help us have those conversations. And so I feel like the show is just, and the X-Men in general are just so important to that. And I'm just thankful to be a part of the X-Men community and for you to like ask me to be on these lives and to have these conversations. It just feels really good to be a part of that conversation and to like have a community to have those conversations with.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like at the end of the day, that's what the X-Men is about. Like, that's like, I'm not trying to throw shade at anything, but it's kind of like, okay, Avengers, Thanos bad. Batman, Joker bad. Where the entire existence of the X-Men has been this question, and all these philosophical debates that go on behind the scenes. I firmly believe that out of every episode of X-Men 97, the original animated series, the character that made the most accurate line ever was Master Mold. When it said, Kelly said, you were supposed to protect us from mutants, and Master Mold said, mutants are humans. Like, it boiled it down to like the most basic, like, what are you fighting over? Like, yeah, you're the same thing. So we're going to fight both of you because you have to be, not going to get into the reason why he said it, but it's true. It's true. Okay, I don't think. All right, I'm just double checking the. Oh, those are a lot of loaded questions, and I think we're all exhausted at this point. So, yeah, we're gonna bounce out of here, guys. Dylan, Stefania, Alicia, I can't thank you enough for coming on and having this conversation. This was a lot of fun. Anybody who's joining in late or is still watching, this will be posted on YouTube probably tomorrow. It's Mother's Day, so I got to take the X-Men hat off for a while and be an awesome husband for a day. But yeah, I just want to say, everybody watching, thank you so much. Once again, panelists, thank you so much. I love you all, and we will talk to you all again another time. Okay, bye.
When does it end?
Right now. Okay, see you.